Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, on this show, I've featured the world's biggest tech leaders, CEOs, corporations, actors, and startups from all over the globe. And I always ask them to come on here and share their story. And every single one of those stories is fascinating, and I try to take something from each of them. But tonight, I want to concentrate on the next generation of talent. Because I recently read about how a student team from the University of Michigan won Adobe's Analytics Challenge over in Utah, and they took home over $35,000 in prizes. And the team competed against schools right across the whole of the US to analyse real data from the MGM Hotels Group and actually present the best business solution using Adobe's analytics tools. Now, as Whitney and George Benson would say, I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Sorry, wrong podcast. This really is an inspirational story about a team from various backgrounds and perspectives that, despite having no Adobe Analytics experience, they complemented each other perfectly to beat over 1,500 students from universities across the US, all by simply rising to the challenge. So I tracked down the team to talk about their experience and how this competition is actually cultivating the next generation of data scientists and playing a big part in closing that tech talent gap. So buckle up and hold on tight, because I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Michigan in the US so we can speak with the members of the winning team, Adjusted R Squared, from this year's Adobe Analytics Challenge. So a massive warm welcome to the show, guys. Can you tell me a little about who you are and what you do?
Thanks very much, Neil. My name is Rajiv, and up until about this fall, I was living in Chicago before coming to school at the Ross School of Business. Before coming to Ross, I was at Deloitte Consulting. I was helping out with the U.S. firms, supporting a number of different clients in a number of different industries, just doing consulting work. And then now I'm here at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business as a first-year MBA, looking to focus more so on data analytics and just getting a better broad business sense.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is Erica Kirshenstein, and I'm a first-year MBA at Ross. Prior to Ross, I worked in market research with a specific focus on media and technology clients at a firm called Ipsos. And before that, I was at a data-driven digital media agency called Zaxxas. I came to Ross because I'd like to make a functional switch from client service into operations, and am currently a fellow at the Tauber Institute for Global Operations here. And post-MBA, I hope to continue working in media and technology in an operations function, leveraging data analytics to solve large-scale operational challenges.
Hi, thanks for having us. My name is Ray, and I'm also a first-year MBA student at Ross. Before coming to this school, I worked in Apple, focusing on employer branding and educational business. As I've already worked in Southeast Asia and Greater China, I was hoping to expanding my career more internationally. So I came to Ross to immerse myself in the global environment and develop my skill sets, which are the main areas that I've been working on at schools these past few months. Post-MBA, I'm looking to continue to work with technology companies and hopefully in an area that I can bring the technology access to more people and communities in need.
So it's my understanding that the Adobe Analytics Challenge focused on giving college students across the Adobe Analytics products and data from real-world organisations and companies. But can you set the scene and tell the listeners what that challenge was, and also how you as a team first got involved and the inspiration behind you actually entering that contest?
The Adobe Analytics Challenge is essentially a business analytics case competition for university students. And basically what happens is Adobe provides access to real-world client data in their Adobe Analytics Cloud. In this case, the client was MGM. And competition participants use the Adobe tool and the online advertising / website data provided to gather insights and make data-driven recommendations that address the problems that MGM is looking to solve. And these are real-world problems that MGM is looking to solve, and this data is real data that MGM has been collecting via their website. And so a first round of submissions was due in mid-October, and this year the competition drew over 150 entries from 70-plus schools. This was then followed by a virtual presentation of our entry for 16 semifinalists from different schools as well. And then finally, from the 16 semifinalists, 6 teams were selected to present their work at the Adobe campus in Lehi, Utah on November 3rd in front of a panel of industry judges, including the director of web analytics from MGM itself. And so the challenge is in its 12th year, I believe, and our team was the first ever team from the Ross School of Business to take home the first place prize, so we're pretty proud of that. And we all took an interest in the Adobe Analytics competition because we each have interests in using data in our future careers, and we thought this was a great opportunity for all of us to kind of flex those muscles. The call for teams was only a couple of weeks into school. We're all MBA 1, so we're in our first semester, so we really didn't know anyone's skill sets or anyone all that well. So our team was essentially random. So we had a number of interested individuals from Ross, and we all got into a room, and basically we sorted into a group based on proximity by where we live. And it actually worked out really, really well because we all 3 of us brought complementary skills to the table. So Rajiv brought in an eye from consulting, Ray took a more international marketing approach, and I had experience in digital media and market research. Overall, it was an awesome experience. We enjoyed meeting the folks at Adobe and MGM, the judges, and the other student participants who are all very talented as well.
I love how you've all have different skill sets there, and you all complemented each other. But I've got to ask, before you actually entered, had any of the people in your team there actually used or had any experience with Adobe Analytics prior to entering?
Yeah, so each of us more or less did have some sort of analytics or marketing background, but none of us has ever used this tool before. So initially, it's really just to get ourselves on board, like what is the tool used for and how to use it, and get ourselves familiar with the large amount of data, how to structure it, and the different ways of using the data tools to get what we want to look into. For me personally, it was a little bit intimidating at the beginning as I've never did big data management before. But the training session from Adobe was really helpful. It pretty much covered every function we need to use throughout the competition. So even with that experiences of using this tool, the preparation was very comprehensive.
So what was actually expected of you in this contest, and how did you actually begin to prepare for that big submission?
So Adobe provided access to their analytics cloud with all of MGM's data, and the scope of the task was fairly broad and probably intentionally so to mimic kind of real-world business challenges as they come. Yeah. None of them are, prepackaged in a nice little package with a nice little bow. So this was very much probably intended to mimic real-world decision-making and problem-solving. So Adobe and MGM provided 5 broad business challenges that MGM was looking to solve. So they were looking to understand how to increase future bookings, how to identify and segment online web visitors, how guests made reservations across properties, how to increase entertainment and other bookings, and as well as other mobile app opportunities. Our approach was first to define a methodology. So we had this huge amount of data, and we needed to know what time period are we looking at, what countries are we going to look at, what are the variables that we're going to use to define what is a conversion or what is a booking. So once we had those in place, we kind of used some of the Adobe Analytics cloud preset tables to begin just running tables and looking at the data. And as soon as we did this, anything we found interesting, we just kept iterating on it until we honed in on a couple of key themes, which resulted in the recommendations that we ultimately presented. But it was definitely a very iterative process. We drew from our own MGM website visitor experience as well as external research about the industry. So our ultimate recommendations addressed targeting of international customers, improvements surrounding website tracking, and creating entertainment and dining packages. In addition to the heavy lifting of pouring through the data, perhaps the next most important thing that we did to prepare our recommendation presentation for both the semifinals and the finals was to clearly provide context about why what we were recommending was important, and also the ultimate, albeit estimated, impact on MGM's business.
Now, it's often said, though, that data is the new oil, but I think really it's visualization of that data that really helps bring it to life and highlight the value to businesses, which Adobe are very good at doing. But how did Adobe Analytics actually help you do that?
I think it's interesting because the idea of data being the new oil or so is kind of trying to play at the idea that data is so valuable. Yeah. And so to your point, kind of looking at if the look at visualization kind of is like the gold rush in a way. because you're now having this mass of people who are now trying to get a sense of what this data truly looks like. And the way that the actual tool within Adobe Analytics was helpful is because it's really meant for non-data scientists in the first place. They're kind of targeting people who are in businesses who don't necessarily have a very robust data analytics background, and are really just trying to get some sort of sense of the huge amount of data that's in a business. Ray mentioned that we had no experience in the tool in the first place, so I felt like it was really good because we were kind of the target base. We're new to the tool, which would be the case in many businesses, but we're also motivated to find some new insights, which is also helpful. Specifically within Adobe Analytics, we kind of lived in the analysis workspace tool. So there was something like a drag and drop interface, more of a focus in web analytics. So you could run some more interesting visualizations, like actually seeing the conversion funnel in terms of where people may have dropped out in each step of the checkout process, or being able to run a cohort table to see which kinds of people group together to do certain activities. And seeing that visually, it's a lot easier to be able to start to extract the business insights than perhaps looking at regression analyses or specific correlations. So it's really interesting to see where this specific tool set in the marketplace, because you're right, visualizations is very important. But the thing is that visualizations tend to hide a lot more of the fancier statistics behind that. So it's very exciting to kind of use this tool to be able to see that level of visualization.
Absolutely. Can you actually talk me through the range of emotions that you all must have gone through there after advancing straight through to the semi-finals and then obviously going on to win in the final in Utah? I mean, did you think you could win at any stage?
Honestly, we were already very surprised when we made it into semifinals. I remember it was during our school's break, and three of us were actually traveling in different cities. So we prepared our semifinals through calls and didn't even get to meet in person before it. After semifinal, we didn't really talk about whether we would pass it or not, but rather just like, okay, we've done everything we can make, and we can just wait for the result. And then we made it to finals. We flew to Adobe's office in Utah, and suddenly we just won. I remember when we were listening to other teams' presentations, they were also good and professional that we thought we were not going to win. But there were just a lot of surprising moments during the journey, and it's also make this competition so fun.
So what did you actually take away from the experience? Now you've won that huge challenge really, and then take that step back and look back at what you've achieved. And now it's all sunk in. What have you taken away from the whole experience?
I kind of like to walk through it from the actual challenge itself more to what we've taken away from our broader careers, just because there was a lot of energy in the data analytics space. And that was surprising to me and a great takeaway, because Adobe gave us a lot of good training. They provided us a number of good tools, both in terms of the access to the actual industry standard tool, but then also access to videos and other sorts of things that may not be so easy to get. So taking away the fact that really a company has so much data. You can get very lost if you don't have a plan before even diving in. And that is definitely something that we were struggling with at the beginning, is just trying to wrap our heads around the sheer number of variables that was going on. And really, after kind of wrangling this set of data, what we took away was the real art is trying to glean the nuggets of real insights from this. So it's, in addition to being able to just not get overwhelmed with the sheer amount of data, but also being able to take away something that's really useful to the business. And even though the focus right now in general is on data analytics, if you see, like, as we mentioned before, data as the new oil, or looking at most companies seeing this huge rise of people who need to know data analytics, you still need to have that business sense. And that's something that we took away, is even though the analyses are really great and the visualizations may be very cool, they have some very interesting insights, it still requires the person behind that to know what's really important for the business, and then also what truly the data that we just have crunched in a certain way, what that really means in order to really apply that to make a change within the business itself.
So if there is anyone listening to this conversation now in a few months, and they're actually thinking of submitting their own entry to the Adobe Analytics Challenge, and they've gone on iTunes or Spotify, they've run a quick search, found about your success story, what is the best advice that you can offer those people listening?
So I would say it's very aligned with what Bridget just said. It's very just determine your methodology early on, such as your time frame, your target locations, and the key metrics you're looking into. Then keep running data and asking questions to yourselves, like, do these findings make sense? What impact can they bring to the business? Are they doable? Are they costly? What else can you look at to make your recommendations more concrete? Also, make sure that the story of your data is presented clearly. It's not just about the what, but also the why and the what next.
Fantastic. Sounds like sound advice to me. Now, Adobe has hired more than 30 students from this program over the years, and it's been a valuable recruiting pool for other companies and agents actually looking for that data-driven talent. So I've got to ask, what's next for you guys? What are your own personal goals? And what do you think 2018 and beyond will have in store for you?
Well, definitely looking more proximate. Internships for 2018 are great. So we're definitely looking at those. But then even further, what I'm working on personally is I'm working on a lot of data analytics coursework. So I'm currently in a business analytics, general business analytics class. So learning things like machine learning algorithms, like K-nearest neighbor, or learning about Monte Carlo simulations, or linear programming and optimization. And then also trying to take that and apply it in data-focused consulting projects. So that's while at school. So in addition to that, I'm trying to teach myself R, and then I'm also then looking more further down the road at a data-focused career. So either if it's internal within the nascent field of something like people analytics, or if it's now externally facing and looking at marketing research, something data analytics to me would be very interesting.
And I will be taking additional data analytics coursework over the next year and a half in the technology and operations department at Ross, as well as within my operations program, the Tauber Institute. So next semester, as Rajiv mentioned, I'll be taking a big data class, and I'll also be learning various data retrieval languages such as SQL, Python, and R. And post-MBA, I hope to leverage those skills that I learned at my MBA to remain in the media and technology industry, but be able to apply my data analysis and data analytics skills to help solve some of the business challenges and drive technology innovation forward is my ultimate goal.
For me, very similar. I'm planning to take more classes about big data and technology management next year so that I can prepare myself for my career goal post-MBA, which is product management or product marketing in the technology field. There are also plenty of action-based learning opportunities at Ross that I'm interested in. So I'm going to leverage them to develop my skill sets and improve my leadership skills with people from diverse backgrounds, which I believe will be very beneficial for my career switch from Asia to US.
Fantastic. And now, if we do have anyone listening that would like to contact any of you there to find out more about your fantastic achievement, can you point them in the direction of how they can reach you, whether that be a website, Twitter, email, or whichever the best way is of contacting you?
Sure. I think it'd be fair to also call out some of the other partners that we've worked on with this. So we are working with now round 2 admissions for the Ross MBA program. So if you're interested in that, you can go to michiganross.umich.edu, send in an application. On Twitter, you can also find Adobe at Analytics Cloud. And then there's also our personal LinkedIns. So my LinkedIn is Rajiv Khattar, so my full name. And then Ray's is Ray-Liao, so her full name. And then Erica's is Erica Kirshenstein, so her full name.
Mouthful.
Well, I'll add those to the show notes just so people can get a hold of you nice and easy. But more than anything, I just love how, despite having no Adobe Analytics experience, you beat 1,500 students from universities across the US there by rising to this fantastic challenge. And ultimately, this challenge was about using data to tell stories. And you did just that. But most importantly of all, if you strip this achievement back, it's not actually about technology, but it's about a team from various backgrounds and perspectives and how they all complemented each other. And I think that is something that we should champion so much more than we often do in life. So a big thank you for coming on today and sharing your story.
Thank you.
What a great team they are there. I'll let you into a little secret. They arranged a chat with me and record today's show in between classes. And I'm truly grateful that they made that big effort to share their story with us today. Because over the years, I've worked in IT departments where if something isn't written down, documented, or even spoon-fed a step-by-step tech note, they say, I've never used it before, so I don't know what to do. But this small team, armed with different skill sets and perspectives, and despite having no Adobe Analytics experience, went on to beat 1,500 students from universities across the entire US, and simply rose to the challenge. Now, as we discussed in the interview, data is widely considered now as the new oil. But using data to tell stories and bring them to life by visualising it in a way that all audiences can understand is quite an achievement on its own. So I genuinely love stories like this, and I wish all the members of the team there the best for the future.
If you enjoyed today's show, why not leave a rating or review on whatever platform you listen to the Tech Blog Writer podcast. More reviews really help bring more listeners to the show, which makes it easier to get even better guests to share tech stories that offer value rather than hype.
Now, before I go, I will leave you with a lovely review from Lindsay Poole, who wrote the following review on iTunes. Segments in the Tech Blog Writer podcast tell incredible stories of some of the world's greatest leaders in the tech world. You walk away learning life lessons applicable to any business, while also getting to know some of the most interesting tech industry executives. I find this podcasting captivating and have a great time listening to it. Thanks so much, Lindsay. I mean, what a heartwarming episode this turned out to be. So please keep those reviews coming into iTunes. If you want to contact me directly, my door is always open. You can email me at techblogwriter@outlook.com, or equally you can tweet me at Neil C. Hughes. But once again, we've reached the end of another episode, I'm afraid. So a big thank you for tuning in to the show each day. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.